So what we're talking about today is two apps that are going to be really, really crucial to making sure our websites actually get out onto the internet and are able to share with your friends and family. So these are skills that you can use outside of class, because for class reasons, we'll mostly just be submitting URLs instead of entire zipped projects. But if you have an idea for a website outside of Blakeney's web design semester, you'll know what to do if you want to get that site onto the actual the internet. And you don't have to pay for anything. It's all free. It's all covered by a lot of different cool stuff that I'm going to show you today. Yes.
GitHub. I have an account, but I hardly know how to log. But I hardly remember my password.
It's okay. Today we're gonna make GitHub accounts, so you'll have a chance to reset that old one, if you don't want to, or if you don't want to make a new one.
But my email address is. But my email address is my personal email, not my school address.
Yes, you'll need to use your personal email because the school will block the security codes. So we're gonna get to that in just a second. Okay. So we talked about our entry task, thinking about why should we do any of this at all? Why should we be even concerned with putting our messaging out on the internet? And then that kind of gets answered into the second question of what is the point of sharing this information? You're going to find out as throughout the course of this semester why we are doing these kinds of things, right? So we have three main daily tasks to complete, okay? I have learned, again, it's been confirmed that Vercel is blocked for you guys as students. So I need to unblock that, but it's going to take me some time. What I'm going to do is show you all the steps once Vercel gets unblocked, because we can use a majority of the class time for GitHub, which is going to take some time. So that's okay, because GitHub still works. Okay. So we'll need to make a big thing for today is making these different accounts, especially a GitHub account, especially one with your personal email. If you would rather make a like business email, like a business Gmail, a business iCloud, a business something like that, so you don't have to use your personal, that's also fine. But your school email won't work because it blocks out of network confirmations, because it's to keep you safe as students, but we need those in order for GitHub to be functional. I recommend that when you do something called two-factor authentication a little bit later, that you use your email and not your phone, so that we can keep your phones up here. And we'll do Vercel once we get it unblocked. The main vocab word I'm going to be using a lot today are repositories or repos. Think of those like a bucket, and I'll show you what that bucket looks like as we get through GitHub, okay? Outcomes for today, we're going to make sure we have our accounts all created and correctly linked together, and we're going to have a little practice with GitHub's interface. It's a little bit complicated because it's designed for full-time developers, full stack tech type individuals. Yes.
And I've used GitHub for like 2 years now.
Cool. So you've got some experience. That's good. We'll make sure everybody gets caught up with the basics. In previous web design classes, I've done something called code-alongs. This is similar to that, where I'll do something and then I'll have you do something, and then we kind of move step by step. So you see each of the steps on your specific computer. You'll get a chance to see my other repositories from past web design classrooms, as well as just because GitHub technically is a social network. You can see a lot of different users on there. And you'll be able to review today's video, previous videos, any other videos that I find, as well as asking questions as much as you can. Yeah, Claire. Okay, I can't restart it without restarting the whole class. Can you borrow Madhavi's? Yeah. Okay, thank you. And it's also recorded, so you can look back at it later. So at the end of today and at the end of this week, you are getting what I'm teaching you because you've created both a GitHub and a Vercel account. You understand parts of a repository, thing I'm going to show you here in a second. You understand the steps towards creating a deployment, which is taking your code and putting it on the internet so it's actually accessible. And by the end of the week, we will have a shareable link. You might have to do some Vercel stuff from home, but thankfully it's just checking boxes until it works, okay? Why are we doing this? This is a very important technical skill in the world of web development. Even if you're not planning on being a developer after this class, you do still need to know how to do this in the class. So over the summertime, you can forget, but it's applicable to many angles of both web development and tech in general. I've used GitHub for different apps or different products that people have created and shared for free. because I know how to get around the site, which is an important thing that I want to teach you a little bit today. It is a little bit more challenging than what we're used to, and challenge is a good thing. If you've heard the expression, a rising tide, or a rising tide lifts all boats. That means if something is challenging, every boat in the harbor will be higher up, more experienced, more practiced. That's what I'm kind of approaching today with. Kind of going back to yesterday, by putting your stuff on the internet, you can show off what you've been working on. If your parents ask, hey, what do you do in web design? You can send them a link and they can see your site put together, or however many sites you deploy. And this is an industry standard practice. So this is something you'll be doing if you decide to continue developing, if you decide to continue comp sci, if you decide to stay in a tech or design kind of focused area or job, or college program or training program or whatever. They're all going to be connected to this type of idea. Okay. So if we look at your homepage, you're going to see there are a couple links right here, mostly to the PowerPoint, our 2 apps, GitHub and Vercel. And then item number 4 is a site that I deployed earlier today. Okay. So if you click on that, you're going to see it's extremely basic HTML. Hold on, let me shut this door. It's extremely basic HTML because I wanted to practice creating a deployment, so I remembered how to do it for you guys today. You're going to see that I didn't have to pay for a domain. I didn't have to host this specific site on a specific computer. Vercel is going to handle all that for us through something called a GitHub repository. Okay? So you can see it's just super basic. You're able to access it too. You don't have to download my code and run it from the file explorer because it's actually hosted on the internet here. Okay. So if you want to look around at what I put together real quick, that is the Blakeney test deploy. But we're going to start on this first page right here, GitHub. Okay. So Git, G-I-T, is a language that was written by the developer of the Linux operating system, or he contributed to the creation of Git. The Linux operating system. What we're going to do is create an account with GitHub so that we can create a repository or a bucket, a holding place for the code that we've written so far. The cool part about the way I've had you write and submit your code is it will auto work for GitHub because it's already in the right format. That's why I'm very particular about some of these formulas and these things like that. So I'm going to click on sign in up here, and I already have an account, but you guys do not. So you can link it with a Google. You can choose a specific username and email that you want to do, but I want us to start off by creating a GitHub account. Now, before we all start doing this, GitHub does kind of freak out sometimes when it gets a lot of requests for new accounts. It makes it look like a bot farm, okay? So if you are finding that GitHub goes too many requests from this URL because we're all in the same like Wi-Fi connection, I'm gonna log into my account real quick because mine's all tied to my Google already. I have a 2-factor authentication code set up on my phone. We don't have to do this today because I want to show you the repositories part, but mine's stored in my password app on my phone. So let me pull up my GitHub. If you're snaking right now, I can hear you, so please don't do that. I need you to log back in after the CAPTCHAs. Now I have some more stuff to teach you. Okay, so we should all be A, on the screen share, and B, looking at something called the dashboard, okay? There's a lot of stuff on here, okay? Let me turn it to light mode so it looks like how it looks for you, okay? 1 second. Let's make it light default. Hi, welcome in. So you're gonna be looking at the GitHub homepage like this. And we're gonna click or look for this little box with a little tag around it that says new, okay? It might be up in the top left corner over here, or it might be over here by your profile picture on the right-hand side. What we're gonna do next is create something called a repository, all right? A repository is very, very similar to the file folders that you create for your web pages that you've already got practice with, okay? So if you've got your phone, put it away, because I know we might still be doing 2-factor authentication. But what we're going to do next is create a new repository. So when you click on either of those buttons, you should see this screen right here called creating a new repository. All right. Remember what I mentioned yesterday about how servers are just computers somewhere else that hold all the information that's necessary? They typically hold them in these structures called repositories, all right? It is a bucket full of your website that when you ask for that website, it goes and looks for that specific bucket, okay? It's an organizational system. You're gonna see on this step number 1 here where it says general, the owner should say your name. My GitHub account name is BBL4KNEY because it's B Blakeney, but the letter A is, yes, thank you. Get it out of your system, okay? It's B Blakeney with the number 4. You're gonna see a repository name right here is one of the required items because it has this little asterisk right here. For your first repository, we're gonna call this today's date, which is 3/24, a hyphen, so a dash, period 5, or just the letter P5, and then another hyphen, and we're gonna call it practice. Okay? So it'll have today's date, period 5, and then the word practice if you're clicking on the creating a new repository section. Okay? I'm going to walk and make sure you are on that step, whether you're in light mode or dark mode. If you're still logging in, that's also okay. I'll help you in a sec. Okay. All right. So with this repository or a repo, GitHub repo, you can add a description if you want. I'm gonna just throw in real quick class demo for 5th period web design. You don't have to do this, but I want to show you that you have the ability. You can choose whether it's public or private. I recommend public because the app that we're going to use later called Vercel is going to need that. And I would check this box right here that says add a readme, okay? When I get to the Vercel stage of showing you how this works, Vercel will often need this readme file, just like when you create an anchor with a href, it needs a specific path or a specific way of doing things. Just like when you create an image with a source, it needs an SRC in a specific way because it has a specific way of doing things. Haven't said this in a minute, but remember your computers are very literal creatures. That means every computer, generally speaking, is very literal. It needs to be told exactly what to do in order to do it correctly. Okay? Once you have checked this box that says add a readme, right down here, and you've given it a repository name, you do not need a description, we're going to click on this button down at the bottom that says create repository. This is going to put a bucket onto your GitHub profile that other users can see if you make it public, and especially the app Vercel can pull when it creates a deployment build, which is how I made the link in today's example right here, the test deploy. I'll show you what that dashboard looks like here in just a second, okay? I'm gonna click create repository, and you should as well. And it's gonna present you with this window right here that has your profile picture up in the top, the name of your repository, the privacy of your repository, mine is set to public. It's also gonna say main with a little branch right here. We're gonna get into that a little bit later in the class. No tags, and you're gonna see the about section that I wrote right here, and then a couple other GitHub pieces down the line, okay? This is the basic version of your repository that currently has no code in it, okay? GitHub is a cool web-based product. There's also a desktop app, but we're not gonna worry about that for this class, or for this semester, I mean. You can write code right here within GitHub. It's not as featured as like something like VS Code is, but you can create code just inside of this repository right here. What I want you to think about these repositories as is the same as your root folders that you make on your computer. So like what you made for project 2 with the specific name that I told you how to do, or told you what to put, this works like that, okay? Now, what are we gonna do with these repositories? That is a great question that I know you're definitely asking, okay? We're going to take the work that we've already created and add it to this repository so that it becomes accessible on Vercel, okay? So I'm going to, we're gonna upload files, and you can either drag and drop your files into the repository into the repo from your browser or from your file explorer, from this guy right here, okay? Or you can choose them by clicking on the choose your files and then going to your OneDrive and looking for that root folder, okay? So I have an example right here. I think your guys' was called Project 2 actually. It's the exact same root folder that I've been working on for Project 2. I can click on it, then click open, and it's gonna ask me for specific files, not folders, but specific files that I wanna upload, okay? So I can either click on my index page, or I can drag and drop my files from my OneDrive by going to my project number 2, take highlighting page 1 and 2 and dropping those in. And you're going to see that it now has index HTML, page 2 HTML, and then page 3 HTML. The demo that I put together inside of this root right here. Okay? You're dragging and dropping your files into your practice repository. What we're doing right now, this step of creating a repo, is called a commit. Okay? Just like if you are going skydiving, you commit to jumping out of the plane, you, with a repository, commit your files into the bucket so that they become accessible. Okay? It's basically the same as uploading, but the process of using GitHub is going through these things called commits. It's also a way to track versions. So you can see what version of the website you're on the example I'll show you here in just a second. You'll see my update log. But right now what we're going to do is commit our changes. Yeah, Audi. Right now, just the HTML. And then we'll do the public folder here in just a second. Okay. When you're ready, leave the default setting of commit to main checked, just right here. And we're going to click the green commit changes button. And what that's going to do is take our work and put it inside of our bucket here so that it becomes accessible by an app like Vercel. Okay? Now this website, this GitHub, does not fully equal hosting your site on the web. It hasn't been deployed yet, it's just stored. In essence, we're using GitHub as our server right now. So when we make a request, like when you click on Blakeney's test deploy in resources, it makes a request. Okay? Now we have our files uploaded to the repo. I'm going to add the public folder. Let me see if it'll let me do that real quick. Hopefully it does. Drag and drop. Okay. If you drag and drop a folder, you're going to see it will auto add, just like the type of formatting when you see you create an image source, an image SRC, public/file name. You can see I have a lot of cat pictures in here because I was trying to work on something for another student. But by dragging and dropping, I've got this public/ all this stuff here. Okay. I'm adding files by upload. I'm going to make a commit. Okay. It's going to take a second. And you're going to see that public folder is now available inside of my repository. And if we look, it looks very, very similar to the way that our website looks in the files. Okay? All we're doing right now is taking the work that we've already completed, which is the first part of any project, right? Is actually coding up the work in progress. Then, once it's finished, or once it's ready to be put out, once it's ready to be deployed on the internet, you can get it into a repository like this before the next step that I'm going to show you. Okay? Did you have a question? Oh. Okay, gotcha. Okay, you with me so far? All right. So what we do now is we have created a repository. If you go to my profile, you don't have to, but I want to show you. You're going to see a ton of different repositories, as well as some of the more social aspects of GitHub, like how many commits I've made recently throughout this calendar year. And you're going to see there's a bunch of different examples right here of my contributor activity. GitHub, when you collaborate on code, which we'll get into a little bit later, today I just want us to make repositories, is going to track your progress or track the things that you're doing with the code that you've uploaded, okay? It's another way for your files to be accessed so you don't have to zip them and send them, which is a very old way of doing things. This is a more modern way of doing things. Okay, so, and you can set a profile picture and a bunch of stuff if you would like. I will have we'll do it tomorrow. I want you to copy and paste your GitHub profiles, but we'll do that later. Okay, so that's the absolute basics of GitHub for this class, okay? it's the first half of getting your code deployed. It is the more active half, so it's where you're doing a lot more things. The second half is actually putting it on the internet, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Before I do that, do you have any questions about what I've shown you so far? Everything worked out okay as you followed along with me, as you were doing what you need to do? Okay, that's really good. That's promising. Okay, now what I'm about to show you, remember you can't access and you can't do along with me today. And before the end of the semester, or before we go to the summer, you will be able to. But right now, because Vercel is blocked, you don't have the ability to do this part. So, come back to this video. I'll teach you Vercel again once it's unblocked, but I want to show you how it works so you know. Okay? Vercel is a free to use, let me log out, or I haven't logged in yet, which is cool, is a free to use, very feature rich, it has a lot of cool stuff to it, app that creates these deployments based on GitHub repos. So without a repo, you can't get your site on the internet the way we do it in web design. There are other methods, but this is the way that I know and the way that I'm going to teach you. Okay. I'm going to log in to Vercel here. When we have Vercel unblocked, it will link to your GitHub, so it does a lot of the work for us. So I'm going to continue with GitHub because I've already linked mine in previous classes, or previous semesters, I mean. It's going to think for a second, and it's going to present me with another dashboard, okay? This dashboard has all of my deployments, which means that I have all of these different types of websites accessible. Now, none of them are done, because these have all been examples for teaching. I don't have my actual personal work on here because I haven't had the time to do the personal work that I want to do, okay? What I'm going to show you is how you create these projects because the repos are already correctly configured, and it'll build the site and get you a URL, okay? So what you'll do is go up here to the Add New button, and we're going to add a new project, okay? Now what adding a new project can do, because you linked it with your GitHub, is going to show us all of our repositories, all of our buckets that we have accessible. Now we haven't gotten into, see this letter N right here? We haven't gotten into that yet. We will. That's called a framework. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple with the HTML and the CSS that we've written for project 2. Okay? It's really important that you name your repositories in a way that makes sense so that you know what you're creating. So I know, because today's the 24th, I'm in 5th period, and I am practicing, this repository is the one that's going to be what I want to import. So I'm going to click that, and it's going to ask me, what do I want to call this Vercel project? You can change the name of your Vercel project because it doesn't affect your GitHub repo. It just accesses your GitHub repo. Okay, so I'm going to call this Vercel deploy demo. Okay, I'm going to leave the application preset as is. I'm going to leave the root directory as this // because it's going to inherit, like parents and children, it's going to inherit the root folder structure of my repository. Again, these are things you've already done. They just have new names. And then I'm going to click deploy. All right. And, oh, why is it mad? Okay, I don't think it can have spaces. I broke my one rule. Let's replace them with dashes instead. And I'm going to click deploy. Now what it's going to do, Vercel's going to do a lot of thinking, get into that GitHub repo, and because it's the correctly configured steps, it's going to do what it needs to do to put our site up onto, this is not a good sign. We're going to figure that out in a second. It's going to create a deployment, okay? So I've deployed a new project to my name's projects because I've made an account just called Blakey, all right? Next step is to continue to the dashboard and start to see how the site is alive. Okay, our site's officially on the internet, but you can see if I go to run it, which I'll show you where the URL lives, it's not going to work. And I'll show you why here in just a second. So what you have all around this Vercel app is a bunch of different readability features and a bunch of different detailed schematics, kind of like you know how you check who views your Instagram story? This is very similar to that. Okay, it's got metrics, it has data, it says who's liking your story. All right, it's all available right here on the Vercel page. What I need you to care about right now, though, is this visit icon right up here. That's going to take us to our Vercel URL and show me that my page is busted. Okay, this is a very common problem. I had it earlier too. That means something is going on in our repository that I need to figure out. Okay, but you're gonna see at the top URL here, it's got the name of the project, which was Vercel deploy demo, and then it's got .vercel.app. Okay, we'll get into domains because Vercel.app is a fine domain, but it also shows that you're using free resources. And if you want to look more professional or more specific for your page's needs, we'll worry about custom domains a little bit later. Okay, so now I'm going to figure out why this is broken. I can do that by closing this tab, and I can look at my repository by clicking this right here, and it will just automatically open my page. Okay, and you'll also see right here, it's attached a link because GitHub and Vercel are talking to each other. Now I need to figure out why my page didn't deploy. Let me look at all this. Why are we mad? Okay.
Typing /page1.html URL.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so if I go back to my Vercel, so Vercel /index.html. Okay. No, that didn't work. Okay. So let's look at my B. Blakeney P5 practice and figure out what's going on here. Do I need something in the README? Okay. Hold on, y'all. You can see this it's taken my code from my examples and from my demos and brought it into, what is this here? That's weird. Can I delete my README? Okay, what's mad? Okay, hold on. Let's try a couple other Vercels. Okay, so when it works, it creates a page, or a dashboard page. Let me show you what it looks like for your resource called Blakeney's Test Deploy, right over here. Let's go to my account, which I need to update my profile picture. Overview, my projects. Nope, that's not it. I don't have any domains. Where is my dashboard? Okay, let's look at 323 requests and see why that one's different. Okay, so when it works, you'll see your dashboard look like this, and you will see your domain configured right here. Maybe it's mad that I put Vercel in the domain name, outside of its own.
I figured it out, but I checked.
Okay, show me in a minute. But this is, once we get Vercel working, how you get your sites put onto the internet. And when I click visit, you're going to see right up here, it's called 323test.vercel.app because that is the name of my repository that I made earlier. When I go to the home page, index.html appears up here. When I go to the about page, page2.html appears up here in the URL. And when I go to my blog, it says page3.html, which means that because of the repository that I put together, like I showed you on this example here, because I got it put together, it's able to access the filing, it's able to access my site, and it should be able to access your project too, and give you a URL to share with your friends or your family or whoever is interested in seeing your personal wikis. Okay. This is a skill. I'm going to wrap up real quick. This is a skill we're going to be using a lot more frequently, which means we're all going to encounter some different types of errors. Okay. I'm going to let you know now, be ready for errors to break your code. It doesn't mean your code is completely dysfunctional. Doesn't mean your code is done wrong. Doesn't mean your code is incorrect. You're not going to lose points. You're not going to fail just because your deployment's having issues. The core of this job is fixing problems. Okay? You're going to be very hands-on if you decide to be a web developer because you're doing everything by hand. Sometimes things break. You learn how to fix them. The cycle repeats. Okay? It's a skill you're going to use everywhere. And I highly recommend you be patient with yourself as you learn how to do these things. Okay? So that's what I need to show you today. As long as everybody has done the creation of the GitHub account and created a repository and uploaded your project to, like I showed you how, by either dragging and dropping or clicking add files, that's what I need you to do today. Okay? Show me on your thumbs, just real quick, how you're feeling about basics of hosting. It's okay if I see some thumbs down. It is okay. No worries. It's a complicated process, and it takes a while to get used to. Okay, cool. That's good to hear. So, your exit task for today, which we have a little bit of extra time here for me to check out your work. What I want to know is, having seen these steps of deploying a page, do you have a better understanding of how much work goes into our modern web? And then I want to know why you think, or why your opinion has changed, okay? This is what we're doing for a class. Imagine your full-time job is to manage these websites and you want to see how complicated those websites are. These things take a lot of steps. So I want you to look at how many steps these take and think about that moving forward, okay? After you finish the exit task, if you have specific questions, I'll help you with those. You can use this time for study hall, but I will keep your phones like normal. We're going to get into this more as the semester progresses. But if we've all got GitHub accounts, we're in a good spot because we'll get Vercel unblocked. Okay, let me wrap this up and then I'll be around to help. Okay.